Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. But yet today we're speaking to Danielle from Ontario. That's okay. We're still very happy to have you here today. Hi, Danielle. Hi, Dino.
Hey, guys.
Hey, whoop, whoop. Nice to meet you.
All right, so I'm actually very excited for this interview. Dino has only mentioned positive things about you and you're a ball of energy, so I can't wait that we go right into it. But before we do, I just want to remind everyone listening, if you want to support us, please leave us a rating, send us some feedback, send some comments. It's really appreciated. We take good note of it and we read every single one of them and we would try to respond as much as possible. So thanks for your help in supporting us. Now, Dino, why don't you introduce our wonderful guest today?
Well, this wonderful guest is called Danielle Chiasson. And why is she here today? Because I met this wonderful person in 2020. We were doing some Tony Robbins training together. That's where we first met. And her vibe was fantastic. We clicked right away. And like she said off air, she's like my big sister. So she's very inspiring. She knows what she's doing. I mean, Danielle, you were doing flips, you're doing conversions after you had your real estate agent's license, after you're buying multifamily units. Now you're in coaching, conferences. I mean, you're all over the place and you're very inspiring. So I'm very happy to see you today. It's been a while and let's get into it. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for the great intro, Dino. Just a correction, I've known you since 2019, my friend. I know it doesn't feel that long because time flies and we've lost a year with COVID, but yeah, I guess we're all getting older because it was 2019. Yeah, so anyway, my name is Danielle Chiasson. I'm a real estate investor in Ontario, Canada, and I've been full-time in real estate investing since 2013. First got into my first rental property in 2003. So thought I knew everything as a landlord from 2003 to 2013. I had a couple of rental properties. I had a few, and then thought I had the game figured out, and then decided to get some coaching in 2013 and do this as a career. So I invested in myself, put a bunch of money into coaching, and realized I knew nothing. And so that's when I shifted from being a landlord to a sophisticated investor. So I spent about 2 years investing in myself, went back to school, quite figuratively, like I went back to school, dived into that. At the time, there wasn't a lot of stuff up in Canada. So everything I learned fundamentally came from my coaches in the States. And then I brought it up here, started implementing in 2015 and hit the ground running and haven't stopped. And yeah, still out of breath running with real estate. I don't know when that's going to stop, but right. But you know what? I love it. To be honest with you, I love it. I love the challenge. I love the pace, keeps me busy, engaged. And there's always something different every day, which I love. As an entrepreneur, I get bored very easily. So I did 5 years of flipping. 2020 happened in COVID. I shifted my business, decided to go into buy and holds and do simply acquisitions. And so now, this year we got 41 units so far. Put the brakes on that because got some partners, just restructured my entire business. And you mentioned the coaching and stuff like that. So I revived that. So now Strategic Success will be fully online by the end of Q2 in 2022. So yeah, lots going on.
Big plans. And I think you've also mentioned a book coming out.
Yes. So the book is, I've been a author in writing for a couple of years now, but I have committed to the book. By the time you launch this podcast, it'll probably be written and with my editor because I've booked next week off, and I'll get the manuscript done by the end of the week and then send it to my editor. So that'll be coming out spring of 2022 as well. And that was all intentional because that's going to be actually in alignment with Strategic Success coming out, my podcast and everything else. So yeah, big things coming. And then after that, I'm going to be back into the acquisitions. Yeah.
Well, so much to unpack.
I'm pretty sure with the coaching, you're going to have such success because I spent a lot of time with you, Danielle, in person. And, you know, when you're in coaching, yes, you're sharing your knowledge, you're helping people, you're inspiring, but you're also a great listener. And people will love that because you listen to them, their story, their situation, and you're always bringing solutions to the table. And so you're a people's person. Again, people's person in real estate. That's so important. So I think it's natural for you. I'm sure you're going to have great success in coaching.
Well, I appreciate that, Dino, but here's what I'm going to say about that. Okay. So I'm a people's person. When you're going into real estate or any business, and this is at a fundamental level, what happens is you need to be able to identify your strengths and your weaknesses and capitalize on them. So you capitalize on your strengths, and then you find people to fill the weaknesses. And so when I partnered with my partners last year at the end of 2020, 2020, what happened was, I am great at people, but I was doing everything. I was in the trenches. I was doing the flips. I was managing those flips. I was researching the contractors. And granted, I have an assistant who carries a lot of that weight for me and does a lot of the due diligence, but I was like really the one driving the boat. And so at the end of the day, when I got with my partners, I realized, hey, you know what? Like, I can be in my lane and not be on a 12-lane highway, and just focus on what I really do well. And like the shift in me and my business and having the support and the people on my team that I trust has been a game changer. In a huge way, it's been a game changer. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs hold back for too long because there's that solopreneurship mindset that says, hey, if I'm the only one that can do this as good as I can do this. And you really got to get out of your own way and bring people on that you trust in order to help you scale in your business. And you know what, when you're on a 12-lane highway, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not being efficient at getting from point A to point B because you're like skimming back and forth along that highway, changing lanes all the time. You just can't get that momentum to drive forward at a consistent pace. So I appreciate you saying that. And I just wanted to share with you because, like, yeah, you're right. I am a people's person. This is what I love. I love helping people. I love problem solving. I don't know if it's I love problem solving or I love telling people what to do, but in any event, that's what I do best. And so, and at the end of the day, if it works for them and it helps empower them and enrich their lives, I'm happy to do it. And if it doesn't work for them, that's cool too. So, I just want to change the world one person at a time.
And so in doing so, I just want to backtrack a little bit because you said you started in 2003 and you thought you knew it all. And for 10 years, like you were the best investors until you realized you knew nothing. Like at the time in 2003, like, first of all, why did you start buying your first rental properties? Like, what were you hoping to get out of it? And how did it pan out for 10 years? Because you described a radical change after that period.
Yeah, great question, Axel. Thank you. I got into real estate because, well, I'll tell you, I remember when I was 19, I wanted to become a realtor. And then when I was talking with some friends about it, they said, oh my God, Danielle, that is not the career for you because you're too honest. And I said, what do you mean? They're like, oh, well, for you to be a realtor, you're going to have to lie to people in order to sell a house. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I was 19, I knew nothing, right? So I was like, what do you mean? And then they're like, oh, well, like if somebody died in the house, you're going to have to hide that because nobody will ever buy it. Or if there's a crack in the foundation or problems on that. Now, I bought into that. And here's what I'm going to say about that. So many people listen to the wrong people for advice. And that's what I did in that moment. My life would be drastically different had I gone into real estate at that age, because I would have become an investor very quickly. I would have seen the potential. But at that point, I just went, whoa, yeah, I don't want to be involved in that. I'm going to be a horrible real estate agent. I'm not going to lie to people. I'm not going to mislead people. That's not my jam. So I just killed it. And so really, I did nothing for my 20s. And then towards the end of my 20s, I got together with the father of my children. And then I was busy making babies and being a homemaker and supporting him in his business. But I always had that attraction to real estate, always. And I think people are just intrigued by it naturally. Like everybody thinks real estate is sexy, right? So everybody wants a piece of it. And we all know that there's wealth in real estate. Nobody really knows what it looks like, but we know it's there. So we're attracted to that. And so I just said, the reason why I got my first property was my first primary residence. But when I bought that house, I bought two actually, and they were both two duplexes with basement suites, in-law suites. They weren't legal suites, they were in-law suites. And this was in Calgary, Alberta. And so I had the money, but I didn't have the income on paper. And my best friend had the income on paper, but didn't have the money. So we came together and, long story short, bought two houses. So one we lived in, and we rented out the 3 units. So we lived in one, the upper unit, and rented out the other 3. And again, it made sense to me for them to pay themselves. Like, that was just logical sense. So that's how I got into real estate, and why. And really, I think people are attracted. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that are listening to this that are attracted to real estate, and just, you don't know why, but there's we're just, I don't know, maybe you guys can identify with that, maybe speak to that a little bit, but that's how I got into it. So then after that, I just like, oh, okay, this is working out. Let me buy another one, and let me buy another one. And so I actually bought units where I was traveling to often, because at the time I was traveling a lot. And then I was renting those out. So, there's reasons behind too why it was to pay for my travel at the same time. So so I did that for about, like I said, 10 years. So over the 10 years, I acquired, I think, 6 properties. And and then in 2013 decided, you know what, I want to build my own thing, and I want to do it in real estate. So let me see where I can go with this. And flipping was my ex, the father of my children, was a contractor. And so I was working in his business. So I just decided to marry the two passions that I had.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense in terms of the transition, going from some buy and hold on some single family to then going full time into it, doing some flips. If your partner is a contractor, definitely.
Yeah, and you know what's, initially I thought I was going to work with him.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Wrong assumption.
Yeah, no, that didn't work out too well. So, at the end of the day, it helped launch me. He was very instrumental in getting me to where I am today. But the problem with being the boss's wife is that my jobs were never a priority because I wasn't truly a client. Yeah. And so the jobs were taking too long. I didn't have control over the job because I kept having to go to him and asking him, when are you going to go back? When are you going to do, Mm-hmm. So I pivoted away from that after 2 flips, and then started doing my own thing with my own guys. And then ultimately I had my own crew for a while. So that's kind of how I went into that. So I just kind of married the 2 passions and 2 skill sets, really. Well, I guess a passion and the skill set together.
Mm-hmm. And now after you went in full-time flipping after that and conversion.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So I did education from 2013 to 2015. In the interim, I got my real estate broker license in Ontario, which is a tool in my investor toolbox. I am licensed as a realtor, and I've done a few transactions, but very few, most of them my own. And and then when I decided to hit the ground running, I bought my first flip in October of 2015, my second one in November of 2015, and then I just flipped for 5 years. Yeah. But then I burnt out. And that's what people, it's hard to see that coming. Yeah.
And to understand a little bit more about those flips, can you kind of walk us through, like, what was your ideal target property and, like, roughly some numbers? Like, on your average flip, you look for a property at how much were you putting into it, and what was the time frame for turnaround?
Yeah, so my business model was whatever I put in for the reno, I want out as a profit. So if I'm doing a 50K reno, I wanted a 50K profit, because I knew if I ended up doing a 70K reno, I still had a 30K profit, right? The other thing is that the larger dollar amount to the rent, it's a larger reno, right? Which is going to take more time, which is more holding costs and more potential mistakes. So I wanted a bigger buffer. So if I did an $80,000 renovation, I wanted an $80,000 profit. With the coaching that I did, I had access to, they gave me really solid information, and they gave me a spreadsheet, what they called the deal analyzer. And then with that deal analyzer, I just tweaked it and made it my own. So when you're flipping, you really have to look at all the cost centers to the flip, and then what your profit is at the end, what your ARV is, right? So here's my purchase price, here's my cost of renovation, and all the other cost centers that people don't talk about. And then here's the ARV. Does that match? Like, does that match my business model? So then here's 40 grand for the flip. Am I making a 40K return? So that was kind of the model that I went with. And that's 40K before taxes, right? So, those were the numbers that I worked with and what I looked at. And so for those of you that are listening that have never done flipping or considering flipping and curious about it, what you want to look for is distressed properties. And there's two types of distressed properties. One is the property itself is distressed. And the second is when the people, the sellers, are distressed, and usually financially or health or divorce, something like that. So if you're just starting out, don't get a property that's in distress, because you're not going to get the numbers right if you don't have the experience in running the numbers. So what I would say is look for a dated house in a nice neighborhood, where the property owner needs to sell fast, and maybe it's a hoarder house, and they just don't want to have people walking through their property, right? So that's what I would advise people just starting out, and make sure you have a big buffer there on your numbers.
Absolutely.
So then the flipping business, I think you put that aside, and then you went full into multifamily units. No, am I wrong?
Well, I thought I put it aside, but I just ended up taking that skill set and elevating it when I scaled up. So yeah, so what I'm doing now is, instead of buying, flipping, and selling, I'm buying, flipping, and holding. So that way I'm still forced appreciating the house by putting some money into the property. I'd say house. I'm not buying houses now, I'm buying buildings. So what we're looking at is like right now I'm doing a 8-unit. That one there is going to be about a $325,000 reno. I've got a $260,000 reno on a 5-unit right now that I'm just wrapping up. And, so it's just bigger numbers, bigger property, bigger headaches, really. But, I'm just applying my skill set to that. And then what I'm doing is I'm also appreciating forcing up the rent values in those properties. And so the ARV on those are going to be a lot higher. I'm going to go back to the bank, refinance, get my construction costs out, and then it'll just be a property that's sitting and being managed by a property owner. So, I have a lot of work on the front end. Sorry, not property owner, property manager. So there's a lot of work on the front end to get to that point. But then once the unit has been elevated and brought up to its highest and best use, then, I have essentially just a property that's sitting there where every month I have tenants paying my rent. A portion of that is due in the principal pay down. I got appreciation going up and some cash flow. So that's ultimately the goal.
So you're basically doing the BRRRR method, but with multifamily units.
100%. Yep, exactly. I was going to say the BRRRR. By the way, BRRRR, everybody thinks is BRRR, but for me, it's BRRRRR. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, rinse, and repeat.
Yeah.
And just keep doing it, right? So it's BRRRR.
You mentioned that so in 2020 now you had 41 units under contract. What's the split? Are you partnering up? Like, can you walk us through like the main lines of those transactions?
Yeah, so I got those units were created under 5 different corporations with all different structures. So I don't do anything as a JV. I do them in corps. There's a reason for that. I think it just protects all the partners. And also, the banks love it better too, right? So they're looking at us like the bank sees us as a corporate partner as opposed to somebody who's just borrowing money on a property. So what it looks like is there's me and my 2 partners, and every deal is different. So I can't talk about any one deal because every partnership is structured differently. So I'll give you an example. Had somebody come to me with a deal, didn't know what to do with the property or didn't have the skill set to do what I do. And so I said, great, well, let's create a corporation. We'll buy it under the new corp that we'll create. And we just did a 25 split 4 ways. So that's how we structured that, because each one of us is bringing something different to the table. So my one partner, Bryce, he's my CFO. So he manages all the money. My other partner is a CMO. So he does the marketing and deals with helping us raise the capital. I bring just the whole thing together, essentially. Like I have a lot of partners, lenders that want to lend to me. And so all of that, the brand and the trust and the expertise I bring to the table. And of course, the other partner brought the deal. So we set it up that way. And now they own, she didn't have any other properties prior to partnering with me. And now she has, give me a second, I'll count it. So there's 9 and 8. So 14 units. She has 14 units just in the first 2 quarters of 2020. So she went from having 0 to 14 units. Now she only has 25% of those units, but you know, if you take 25% of 14, it's still, you know, a nice add to the portfolio, right? And it's a good start.
Hold on a second.
You know.
I just want to add on, because this is a great topic. I get asked often, how do you structure a partnership and what's the percentage? And first of all, not everybody is open to partnership. Some people want to do a one-man show, and a lot of people think, oh, no, it's 50-50. And I mean, there's so many ways to structure a partnership, but the way you do it, I love it, because there's no greed and everybody brings something to the table, like you said. And that person, the fourth one that came to you guys, which you guys are already a team, she gets 25% of something she didn't have before. Plus, she has all your expertise and everything you guys build and do. You've been doing it for years. And for her to try to get there, it's going to take time and money. And so I think the 25% is awesome. And for her, sorry about that. For her, it's a great deal getting 25%. I think it's good. So
I don't know if your dog likes that idea, though. I'm thinking, I think your dog wants to be greedy and keep the whole 100%.
Yeah,
clearly.
So yeah, no, you know what? At the end of the day, I am not a greedy person. And I think that is an undertow that just kind of flows through my business. People know that about me. I am adamant about having a win-win. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to work with you, if you're not going to be happy, I don't want to work with you. No. If I'm not going to be happy, obviously I don't want to work with you. So it has to be a win-win, because if it's not a win-win and somebody just settles and says, okay, fine. I mean, I could back people into corner, and I can do that because of my expertise and what I bring to the table. I could push for more and say, well, look, I'll give you 12%. And then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I can lay out everything that I'm going to do for you and say, you know what, and then we'll rinse and repeat. Yeah, you'll get your portfolio up there. But then Dino's like, well, all right, fine. And then, you know, but you're not 100% happy with that. It's not going to work. And I'll tell you why. That'll be the beginning of the end, because you're going to be resentful. Number one. Number two, as you follow through on your journey and you get better at what you do, you're going to see that, oh, maybe I could work with that person and do better, or work with that person and do better. So like for me, it's all about the relationship and long-term growth together. I do believe, like I say this a lot, just in the normal course of business, together we're better. And I firmly believe that. And so if you create win-wins, if you treat people right, it's not to say that it's going to last forever, but it's setting up for success. And I'm all about setting yourself up for success. And I think when you do right by people, they do right by you. So Absolutely. At the end of the day, that's just kind of where I work.
That person is going to come back with another deal after. She loved what she went through. She was, okay, let's do this again. She's going to find.
Well, we did 3.
There you
We've
go.
got 3. Yeah.
There you go.
So it does show 2 things like that. They're sometimes overlooked in the raising capital process for real estate investors. Is the best relationships are the ones that last, and then the loyalty. Because that's often overlooked, but when we offer someone a possibility and both parties come together, you know, it's tempting sometimes to say, well, next time I'll offer it to somebody else, or I'll see if I can, you know, squeeze a little bit more of this guy or him instead, and so on. But the real value, again, is not to have to look for new investors, is to keep reusing the same one. And as you just said, Danielle, you're absolutely right. Like the ones that last are the ones where everyone is happy, because they're not going to go look for somewhere else. They actually just want to give you more money. And the question is, how quickly can you take it and invest it for me?
It's funny you say that, because she's a couple of things I'm gonna comment on to what you said, to your point. Number one, she's also one of my money lenders now, because she's making money in her business. And so now she's, you know, investing some of her money into, as a lender, some extra cash flow that she has coming into her business because she's a business owner. And then that's number one. And number two, she is going off and doing her own thing. And I've had lenders too do this because I don't pay the rates that you could potentially get elsewhere. My lenders do get a fair rate. Again, it's got to be a win-win, right? It's got to be fair. I don't have to pay really high rates to my lenders because of the expertise, because of the volume of people that want to lend with me, because of just everything that I bring to the table, right? I give you peace of mind.
Yeah.
The higher rate of return you can get on promissories, but it's going to be with less experienced people who don't know the money game yet, who haven't managed their money in real estate. It's going to be higher risk. So higher risk, higher reward. I'm all for that. So if that's what you want, by all means, I give you peace of mind. You can sleep at night. You know your money is parked with me. I don't over leverage. And so there's, I know that there is something coming in the future when, I don't know, we've been saying this for 3-4 years now. But I'm setting myself up to be able to manage that storm that's coming. And my investors know that. The number one thing that I have is, protecting my business, limit liabilities, reduce risk, and take care of my investors. Because if I take care of my investors and I take care of my properties, then I am going to survive the storm. I know that. So that's protecting my business, right? But here's the thing. I've had lenders come to me, and then once they get into the game a little bit more, they go, oh, I can lend over here and get 14%. I can lend over there and I can get 13%. And I go, great, go. But they always go and they come back. So just like with this particular partner, she's off doing her own stuff right now. She bought a single family. I don't want to do single families anymore. So she bought a single family. She's duplexing it. No, this is what's going to happen. She's either going to love it and keep doing more of it, or she's going to do it and realize, holy crap, Danielle was right. I don't want to spend all of this time doing this because it's taking me from my other business, which is generating income. Let me stay in my lane. Let me just, have Danielle as my partner, and then we can just work together and I can do what I do, feed Danielle some properties and then add to my portfolio that way, which I anticipate will be what happens. Maybe not. I could be wrong, but in any event, I am 100% on board with whatever people want to do. But a lot of times they will go elsewhere, even though I'm fair, they'll go elsewhere and then realize, wait a minute, what I had over here was good. I can't tell you how many times that's happened where people have come back to me, and I'm okay with that. Go. Sometimes you just got to go and figure it out for yourself. Right. So
they have to try it too. I mean,
100%.
When they come with you, it's on a silver platter and it's easy. Okay, this is the deal. And you say, no problem, I'll take care of it. Boom, boom, boom. My partner does their part and okay, this was easy. But she wants, and it's a normal way of thinking for a human being. I'm doing something, I want to try it on my own. I want to taste it. I want to see, I want to learn. But some people won't like that. And like you said, they're not in their lane. They're getting in the 12-lane traffic, like you were saying before. So they'll come back if it's their type of investment.
Hey, listen, I was on that 12-lane highway for a long time. So I get it. I totally get it. We all have to go down our own journey to learn what we need to do and find our niche, right?
As we start to wrap up here, I'd have 1 or 2 more questions. You're extremely confident about your business, and you've mentioned that you rely on people. Can you kind of just walk us through, when you build your team, what is it that you were looking for and what advice would you give? Because I can relate to something you said earlier in terms of at some point you think you can do it all, you're the solopreneur and stuff. And it's when you realize that you start to get out of that and delegate more, that all of a sudden, if you set it up properly and surrounded yourself with the right people, you can explode your business. And so what made it work for you?
Yeah, Dino went through this too. He's shaking his head for those of you that aren't listening. Dino and I have talked about this a lot. The first step, Axel, by the way, great question. First step is to, change your mindset. And I mean, Dino could talk about this all day long. He and I have had many conversations about this. But you have to change your mindset and you have to get out of your own way. Mm-hmm. Biggest thing is this. And if you're in the audience, write this down. 80% is good enough. 80% is good enough. Done is better than perfect. What happens as a solopreneur is when we think about hiring somebody or asking for help or bringing somebody on board, we expect them to do it as good as us or better. And that is an unrealistic expectation. And when I say unrealistic expectation, I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's not anyone else's business but yours. So nobody is ever going to attack it with the amount of passion and drive that you will. So 80% is good enough. It's actually better than what you need. 70% would be good enough, because done is better than perfect. So getting it done is better than getting it 100%. So that's number one. So you got to change your mindset. And, number two is don't give up. Any successful business has employees. And so many solopreneurs hire people. They try. The person doesn't do it the way they want. Doesn't work. They go, okay, screw this. I'm done. Like, it didn't work. Nobody will do it as good as me. And then they give up on the idea. You got to keep moving forward. So, and I'm going to tell you, so many times I'm part of a mastermind, a Canadian mastermind called Synergy. And it was really interesting to see, as some people were starting to hire people, I said to them, you're going to go through the process at least 3 times for any new seat in your business, meaning any new position in your business. And they're like, well, no, that's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, Danielle, you were so right. I had no idea. And it's because when you hire a new position in your company, even if it's admin, you don't even know what you need yet.
Yeah.
So what happens is you're not clear in communicating to that employee what you need, and they're not happy, so they leave. And it's okay. So go through the process 2-3 times. For me, I've done this many times, and it's an average of 3 times before I find the right person. So, and that's because as I go through and I hire them, I'm defining the roles and the responsibilities, right? And that's okay. That's just part of the evolution of your business. So embrace that as part of the journey. And the other thing I'll say about that is, as soon as you get the idea, should I hire somebody? The answer is yes. Don't wait until it's critical. Actually, I just covered this on one of my podcasts. Don't wait until it's critical, because if you wait until it's critical, then you're going to get into that self-talk where, oh, I need to hire somebody, but I don't have time. I need to hire somebody, but who's going to train them? I really need to hire. So then you get caught up in that cycle where you're at a critical point where you're covering all of this stuff that you just don't have the time to hire somebody properly. And then typically what happens is you'll just hire fast and it's the wrong person. And you can't commit to dedicating to training them on what you want. So as soon as oh my God, I feel like I need to hire somebody. Yes, start putting the ad out. Put the ad out. Doesn't mean you got to hire tomorrow, but it gives you time to start the process, start thinking about it, hire somebody. Who knows? You might find somebody right away. You might not, but you know what? You might hire that one person and they may work 6 weeks and it doesn't work out. And then you start the process over again, but it gives you time to really define that role. And so, hire slow and fire fast. I'm sure it's been covered. I know it's been covered 1,000 times. Hire slow and fire fast, because you want to do all the work on the front end to hire the right person rather than, rather than hire the wrong person and try to make that work and fit a round peg into a square hole. It doesn't work. So, and then once you hire somebody, you don't want to let them go because they are helping, relieve some of that pressure. And then you don't want to let them go and start all over again. So that's why you got to do it really early on. So as soon as the thought hits your head, should I hire somebody, or I feel like I need to hire somebody, you need to do it. That's
Words of wisdom.
And I'll give the audience a little golden nugget on what Danielle just said. When you're hiring somebody for the first time, whatever that person needs to do, record what she needs to do, the task on your desktop, if it's paper, whatever, and write it down, do a video. So it's going to be so much easier once you have to change that person. You're going to have that guideline, or that person, the new employee, will be able to look at the videos and say, okay, this is how it's done. And for you as the entrepreneur, you're going to spend less time training that new person.
100%. Do a loom.
There you go.
Do you want me to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. A few minutes.
Okay. So what you do is this: when you assign a task to it, task is just have them write a checklist with each step to complete that task. And then that is your base to building a business system or a policy or procedure to your company. So just have that checklist. So you say, okay, John Doe, I need you to go walk through a property and look at this. So, okay, so then they're like, oh, give them a checklist of what you want done and then have them build on it. Say, go through this checklist, and if there's anything else you've done, just add to it. So then that way, as we grow and you grow with the company, I can hand that off to somebody who's going to help you and work for you or under you, essentially, because we want growth, right? So you start with a checklist, and then after that, you can build on that and make it more detailed. That's how I build my systems. And then as I go through the checklist, if there's resources that they go to, for example, the deal analyzer, then we put the link in that Word doc, which is all saved on a online drive that is collaboration with everybody in the company. And then you can add to that doc. So under each point in the checklist, then you say resources here, check here, go here, and you can add to that. So you can build on that, but it starts with a checklist. Everybody's like, oh my God. And then like to your point, if it's more detailed and you want to do a video, then you just put the link to the video, right? On that checklist. And then you just build that. And then eventually it will become a manual. But everybody wants to build the manual to start with. Start with a checklist, right?
And start by defining the role.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Full of good stuff here. Thank you so much, Danielle. Finally, where can people find out more about you?
Well, if they wanted to connect with me, find out a little bit more. If there's any questions you have, you want to expand a little bit more on about what we talked about, I created just for your audience where they can book with me with a 15-minute call. It's calendly.com/strategic success /the-very-real-estate-effect. So it's calendly.com/strategic success, the very real estate effect. And I'm sure you guys are going to have that in the show notes.
Yeah,
so
we'll
for those of you that are driving, don't pull over, don't write, don't type into your phone right now. Like it's in the show notes. So so just click on that. You can book a strategy session with me, an intake call, intro call, whatever you want to call it. Let's connect and we can go from there.
Super duper.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. I'm excited.
That was a great.
I hope I brought some. Yeah, thanks. I hope I brought some value to your audience. And thanks again for having me on. Super honored.
Well, you really did. Thank you so much. And I'm sure you're going to get some calls, and I actually might want to have a chat with you about something that you mentioned. So yeah, thank you very much. For everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned and you can get some more next week. We'll have another great episode. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Go make some offers. Ciao.